Welcome to YellBro. I am Jordan, and today we're going to react to a little, I guess, not, is it debunking? I guess debunking, it's in the title of this. I think it's O's instead of Oz. It's O's Pearlman, the mentalist or magician guy. And it's less so about him, although he's the major feature. It's more so about the idea of critical thinking and being aware of your surroundings, especially since, I do a lot of political content in that world where these guys do have, in my opinion at least, these apparatus, like governmental apparatus or private company apparatuses or marketing, and influencers. These guys definitely think about your psychology when they're trying to appeal to you. And maybe this can teach us some lessons. Maybe. Before it gets started, don't forget to share support. Hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We're in that Discord right now. All opinions are welcome. And obviously, everything I show you will be linked in that same description box, including this. I'm not going to play this video, but as you can see, that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I think people would call her a Zionist or Democratic establishment and part of the Democratic Party apparatus, right? And you see this statement from Hassan Piker. It says, disgusting. What the hell is this party doing? But the way he puts it in that statement, it sounds like he's like bewildered by this, or like, wow, I never knew these guys were this bad, like type of statement. And I'm like, really, dude? Really? You haven't seen how bad the Democratic Party is? When they do horrible things around the world, it's not by accident, Hassan. It's part of the fucking agenda, my man. I don't even mean that in like a conspiratorial way. I mean, like, that's actually like their drives. They just do better, on the surface, external marketing and advertisement for their policies than, just kick the door in Republican Party, right? Or even more so with Trump, who's like extra overt. But this should be no surprise to you. And there's a lot of them in there like that. A lot of people in the Democratic Party that on the surface behave this way. And it's almost like, hey, man, these guys are so dumb. What are they doing? That's what Hassan sounds like. What are they doing, man? They're so dumb. Like, they're not dumb about it. I mean, they are dumb, but like, this is shit. It's on purpose, my man. From Iraq to Afghanistan to Somalia to Sudan to fucking Libya, Benghazi events, Syria. These are not by accident, my man. But then again, maybe I'm stupid for even saying that to Hassan. Maybe he knows that already, and he's a bullshit artist. Speaking of, and once again, this is not the really full-blown shit on the O's Pearlman guy, right? He does some weird shit, let's be honest, but it could be for the sake of entertainment, right? It's still weird to me, though. Like, quite weird, as you're going to find out. And I saw this video the other day, and I'm like, damn, this is just excellently made, in my humble opinion. Like, I'm just finding out really this guy's content. I've heard of him before from like ESPN and shit, but like I'm just kind of finding now the Pablo Torre rabbit hole pause. And he actually takes sports, like sports topics, and pulls it more towards regular life. Now, although I think it comes through a political lens, which is unfortunate, but there's some, I think, nuggets of gold there that are worth looking into. And we're going to hear him out. And I think, who's the guy that's on his show? I give him some credit here. I forgot his name. He's an LC. Steve Baskin. So, who I believe also partakes in magic tricks and shit like that, so he can like see through the act in a way. But let's hear what they say. Here is debunking O's Pearlman's tricks. Is he a fraud? Here we go.
Welcome to Pablo Torre Finds Out. I am Pablo Torre, and today we're going to find out what this sound is.
Where is the person with the balls to just, like, flat out accuse this guy of fraud?
Right after this ad.
What?
Clear. Find a guy who becomes obsessed with characters that confuse me, that I find on some level unsolvable. And when I unilaterally bring up the name O's Pearlman, O's the mentalist, there are two sort of reactions. One is, who the f is that? The other is, we're about to have perhaps a 5-hour conversation about this guy. And Stevie Baskin, as the preeminent authority on O's the mentalist and the decoding of what makes him so irresistible, How would you explain O's to the first group that has no idea who he is, has never seen him, has no sense of why I would even care?
Well, maybe
I didn't know who this guy was until I saw this video. Well, I heard of the guy. He was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He's the guy doing the magic tricks, with Trump and Carolyn Levitt, right before like the shooting was going off or whatever. That's all. I heard. I saw some thumbnails where he was on Rogan or something like that, and got Rogan's passcode. But other than that, didn't really know the guy. But once again, it's kind of past this guy and more about the substance of the topic, which is how do people just get tricked so easily by seemingly like simple sleights of hand, right? And yes, that plays a role in politics and life, psychology, existentialism. Puts it play. Here we go.
Has never seen him, has no sense of why I would even care.
Well, maybe there's an argument to say that the most useful way to introduce him is that he's sort of someone who has mastered the art form of mentalism, which I think then would be immediately followed by the question of, well, what is mentalism?
You go back in time and you look into the face directly of somebody that you have not thought of before today in years. You don't know why, what reason or why, but you're seeing this person in your mind at this very moment. Open your eyes. You and him used to play basketball together, didn't you?
What the Yes.
What's his name?
Pernell Davis.
Pernell.
What the Are you kidding me?
That might be overacting
this is
right
like
there.
the craziest.
Especially when you hear it explained.
Mentalism is the next level of magic, where a magician has trained and learned things like sleight of hand, has learned things like misdirection. The mentalist has learned all of those kind of subtleties, but branched them out of the world of sleight of hand and into the world of sleight of mind. If we think of a magician as someone who's gone through medical school, a mentalist is someone who is now a plastic surgeon.
Tell us all, out of that whole deck, don't move, what card you think of, say it.
3 of diamonds.
3 of diamonds. Well, hold on. Tell us, what'd you think of?
I was a goldfish.
A goldfish?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
I got you. Look in your hands, Aaron.
What if you would have picked a giraffe, though?
A great mentalist and a great plastic surgeon share something in common. They are so skilled that they successfully deter the audience from lingering on a potentially explosive question. Is this real? And if you watch O's the Mentalist, as I have for hours, you will hear him disclose something important: that he does not have secret superpowers. In his popular TED Talk, O's very explicitly says that he performs these viral revelations by simply noticing things. Noticing clues about a person's body language, their eyebrows, their pupil movement, these non-verbal cues. That, in short, is what mentalism is. And O's, who used to work on Wall Street at Merrill Lynch, sells this as a learnable skill.
I am billed as the world's greatest mind reader, but guess what? I can't read minds. What I can do is read people. And people ask a question all the time, which is, were you born with this? And the answer is no, of course not, absolutely not. I do not possess any supernatural powers. I am not a psychic. This is a learnable skill that I feel anyone could do, but I've applied for about roughly 3 decades at reverse engineering the human mind. If I know how you think, I know what you think. And I want to ask each and every...
And so O's the Mentalist has become part mentalism evangelist and part Sherlock Holmes. This guy who barnstorms into rooms all across the country and all across sports especially, collecting millions upon millions of views and fans and dollars.
The most honest thing to say would be that he is an absolutely incredible performer who has developed a unique kind of way of interacting with studios, whether that be a news broadcast studio or a sports broadcasting, or the studio of a successful YouTube podcast or someone like Joe Rogan. He has deeply understood how those things work, and he is prepared to manipulate those environments to create absolutely downright impossible effects that do have your mind pushing itself to start to consider, does this guy have something supernatural going on?
If I told you right now to make up a random number, I'd say, get out your calculator. I'd love that. And you add it up and you do a random number. You know, screw calculator. I want it to be spontaneous. Would your wife know your ATM PIN code? No?
No.
Lie to me. Do not tell me your real ATM PIN code.
Okay.
Obviously, unless you want to. Make up a fake 4-digit number off the top of your head, what feels to you utterly spontaneous.
Okay.
When I say go, 1, 2, 3, 4-digit code, random, go.
Okay.
Say it.
2020.
2020, okay. So you ask me, how do I do what I do? I'm going to write down 2020.
Okay.
For those that don't know the trick, he asks Joe to come up with a 4-digit number that is not his PIN code, just kind of a random 4-digit number of what Joe would believe to be a random 4-digit number. Joe says 2020. Oz then proceeds to analyze the individual digits of 2020 and kind of do this on-the-fly psychological analysis, statistical analysis, nonverbal cues analysis to reverse engineer that 2020 to get back to what Joe Rogan's PIN code was.
I'm showing this to you. Is there a camera behind me? I don't want to make sure. I'm only going to show it to you. It's not 2020. How'd I do, Joe? Is that your ATM PIN code?
Yeah. That's weird. I'm skeptical because I've got that PIN code in the mail. You know?
He's calling his bank right
When
now.
So, as you're going to hear when he starts explaining the Baskins guy, when he starts explaining how he's doing all this, like basically showing how the tricks are done, right? And you realize, like, wait a minute. It's not about him being some super fucking genius. Although there is some, like certain things I've seen the guy do that where it's like, damn, he's like talented at this, like the being able to manipulate cards a certain way, or right, like magic trick shit, right? Like street magic, David Blaine shit. Like, well, oh man, like not everyone can do that. Or maybe sometimes it's memory, the way you can memorize a number like really quickly, or a name or a word really quickly. Okay. But the overall thing that he's known for, if you see how it's done, is not so impressive. And I think the same thing applies to when these people think of, oh my God, all these people and these governmental apparatuses, oh, they're all fucking Hannibal Lecter, or they're all fucking like some super genius, right? Super genius evil person. They all went to Harvard and they're all brilliant. Like, nah. They're just willing to do things that others aren't willing to do. That's my opinion of it, which is why I don't use the word intelligence when it comes to these creepy fucking actions you see in the world. And I'm not saying this guy's, some of these things people will be like, yo, that's kind of creepy, for sure. But, I mean, you're going to hear some stuff where you're like, okay, that's just weird. But it's kind of a known thing with magician motherfuckers, right? And mentalists, if you will. So I understand why he's doing it. It feels less creepy in that sense, but the action itself might be a little weird. But yeah, it's more so not that they're so smart or better than everyone else. Like, oh, the elites, they're so powerful. Like, not really. They're just willing to do things that regular people are not willing to do. Most likely, right? Hey, how many people can just blow up a baby? Not many people are just like, yeah, I could do that. I think there'd be a hardcore amount of hesitation and a lot of downright, fuck no, I'm not doing that. But some people in the world that exists out there, for whatever reason, are able to do that. And thus they start gobbling up social power by manipulation and abusing other people that other people aren't willing to do. But let's hit play here. Here we go.
I saw the comment. It was particularly one. I think the one that got me was just one saying, man, no one has debunked this guy.
Right.
No one has put up a video explaining how he does it. And that bothered me. And then that just became like a little sort of voice in the back of my head where I thought it was as if the universe itself was kind of cajoling me into saying, are you gonna do it, Steve? Are you gonna make this video?
And so an amateur magician named Stevie Baskin did just that a few months ago, publishing a 5-hour analysis of the guy who calls himself the world's greatest mentalist on an otherwise empty YouTube channel. And I watched all 5 hours of that as well.
I work in a law firm, so 9 o'clock every day, I'm in a general practice law firm where we're doing everything from criminal law to family law to succession law. What I would say is I get to solve problems all day long. I get to think about different ways to solve a problem for someone in a very real world context. And that might seem wholly disconnected from watching someone like Pearlman and figuring out what he's doing. But I actually felt it was kind of the same thing.
And if you want to know how high Oz has been flying here in the United States, just last month, I also found myself watching this.
Once again, we want to tell you what you're looking at if you're just joining us. This is footage from the White House Correspondents' Dinner when suddenly shots were fired and heard and people ducked for cover underneath the table.
And when all this chaos began, the person who was closest to the president in that moment was the entertainer for the night, mentalist Oz Pearlman, who you can see in this video talking with the president.
And I just got to say, I was in D.C. while that was happening. I wasn't going to the event, but I was there for some of the events before. And a lot of the people there, including reporters, like journalists, were like, how does this guy do it? You know, everyone was sort of like whispering about, is this guy a witch?
I think the reason that Oz Pearlman, why he gripped me in the way that he did, and then when I saw that he was deceiving other people to the extent that he was, it provoked something in me where I had to correct that situation because I want people to see the world clearly. It is a misconception to say that you can think in the back of your mind, oh, well, yeah, sure, there's this skill where someone can spend 30 years reverse engineering the human mind and can now study someone's eyebrows and can study sort of how they, stutter when they're speaking or how they hold their hands in front of their waistline, and they're able to discern this information. If that is something that you genuinely believe, it is absolutely going to affect how you interpret the rest of the world. The exact same way as if you genuinely believe that on December 24, a man comes in a sleigh with flying reindeer and is able to go all around the whole planet and go down everyone's chimney and put presents there for the morning. That if you genuinely believe that happens, that doesn't exist as a kind of isolated belief in your mind because it has implications for a huge amount of other things that are going on in your world, which is why that illusion can't sustain itself for very long before people start saying, hey, like, why aren't we all flying around in sleighs? Or like, oh, wait, how many houses is he supposed to visit in one evening, beforehand? And then the ordered complexity of the rest of the world starts crashing in, and then the illusion has to die.
Yeah.
Okay, so with what Steve Baskin was saying right there, it's probably a spectrum. I think most people fall into the category of, like, he's probably doing some trick that I just don't even understand how he's doing it. In fact, I don't even give a shit. So they just kind of just leave it the way, like, oh, that's fucking amazing talent, and they walk away from it, kind of. And there's people that are like hardcore probably believers, like, yeah, this guy's, reading the fucking, the goosebumps on my arm and somehow reading my mind through by doing that. And there's people like, oh no, there is something to body language, and the full other side of the spectrum where there is something to body language, and there's something to social cues and behavioral cues, and in a way, and intuition. But it's not the way this guy's doing it. He's doing it like a showman, not like the real way. So it's like probably a wide spectrum of things. And once again, when it comes to the narratives and shit like that in the world of politics, I think it works out kind of the same way. There's like depending on team, I guess, but there's probably like hardcore believers. Yes, there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There are, because Daddy told me so. Daddy government told me so. Right? There's people like, yeah, there's probably something else going on with this, but like, I don't fucking know. And I got work in 5 minutes, dude. I can't. Right? Then there's people like, the full other side of it where, no, there is something there, but it's a lot, different than the hardcore, I believe in Santa Claus people, right? You picked up on that. But all right, let's keep playing. Once again, important to me. Once again, this is like almost like a different genre, but not really from my normal content. I think it's like right in line with it, where I try to talk about psychology. quite often when it comes to the world of politics and anything else, movies, entertainment, all that stuff. It's like right in line with that. And yes, you should fucking dance with your own perceptions. You have, like, if you want to be you, if you truly want to express yourself, you have to break down your conditioning patterns. Has to be done, whether you like them or not, right? You have to break them down and then rebuild them in your own image instead of letting someone else try to do it for you. All right. Let's hit play. Here we go.
Complexity of the rest of the world starts crashing in, and then the illusion has to die.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a better comparison. If you're not familiar with Oz Pearlman, then what we're about to do on this episode is basically debunk the modern day Santa Claus.
Yeah, 100%.
I should be copyrighted, bro. You're correct.
Something I feel obligated to tell you before we go any further here is that I love magic. I buy tickets to magic shows. I have friends who are magicians, including one who is the proprietor of a physical magic shop here in New York City. So I do not think that tricking people in this context at magic shows is wrong. I think it's fun, actually, like a mystery of storytelling and technique. And Oz is very skilled at both storytelling and technique.
Yep.
In fact, before we dissect how Oz's manipulation of the audience goes too far and actually breaks certain ethical codes, this according to 3 magicians that we spoke to,
This might creep you out.
I want to
guys.
show you one of Oz's basic and relatively non-controversial tricks,
Oh, okay.
which he did to
later
the
one's gonna
Falcons
break
all-pro
down,
running back,
possibly.
Bijan Robinson, and the show's host, Kay Adams.
Bijan,
Yep,
you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
All right.
I have a fun idea for you.
Okay.
Grab your phone out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, gosh.
He's like,
All right.
quick, delete browser
These are
history.
the worst
no.
ones.
Bijan, hold so I can't see it.
Okay.
Go to your contacts
All right.
and tip it. You know what? I want you
Tell
to see,
me.
Kay, I want you to start scrolling through Bijan, and I want you to look over his shoulder. Do a little
Don't look at his
eavesdropping.
poor
No,
contact.
come on,
Okay.
you're gonna
Is
see
it
people.
okay?
And tip it so I can't see it.
Don't let him see.
Tip your phone down.
Okay.
And Kay, look, is it scrolling?
Yes.
Bijan, I don't want you to look. So this is
Okay.
the key. I want you to be scrolling without looking. So you take it, and whenever you want, you're gonna stop. Hold it, start scrolling.
Just scroll.
Scroll, and then make sure, and you're gonna see, Kay, there's gonna be a whole list of names.
I mean, he's got shorts on. I'm looking everywhere. I'm
There's
trying
one.
not to
Tell
look
me when
everywhere.
you're done.
Bro.
I'm done.
That's it?
pause,
Bring it close
okay?
to your heart. Look where you landed. Look at the name at the top.
Oh shoot.
Oh, no, he got rid of it. Oh, no, we got it. We got it. Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Okay, do you see someone in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea who you're gonna pick?
No.
Right? Is there any way in the world I could know something you didn't even know?
No, because
Absolutely
we were
not.
scrolling.
Yeah, absolutely not.
All right, put your phone down.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have you sit here. We're gonna I'm gonna tag team this. I'm gonna see who I can pick up things from first.
Okay.
Look at the body language, the tension. I think it's a guy. Is it a guy?
It is a guy.
But here's what's funny.
Oh shoot.
You were confused. That didn't make sense. There's no context. Listen to me. That didn't make sense. Do you know
Because
why?
it's not a famous person?
Nope. Because if the name was Michael, she would have known it was a guy. She was confused. She didn't know if it was a guy or girl. It's a name that could go either way.
Okay.
This is funny. You just gave it away. You didn't realize. Chris, is it Chris?
Yes.
Do you understand what just happened? You know,
No,
what?
because
he
you
doesn't.
can't get in heroes.
Think of his last name. Because I know a million dudes named Chris. Think of Chris's last name.
Okay. I thought his last name.
And you mix up the letters in this person's last name.
Okay.
And you just stop and you grab out anyone you want. You just grab it out. You got one?
Yeah.
Did you grab one too?
Yeah, a letter, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I don't think you did a vowel. You didn't do a vowel, did you?
No.
You thought it's too easy. I'm not gonna do the vowel. And then I think you did different letters. B. Are you thinking of a B?
Wait.
Hold up.
I wasn't.
That wasn't hers. I told you, you're thinking of different letters. Chris. I love when people watch these videos and say it's set up because you didn't know who you were gonna pick. How could I know this?
Hey, this is crazy.
What's his name? Tell us.
Chris Gilbert.
Chris.
No
Yo-
way, it was Chris Gilbert.
Yo.
How did you do that?
How did you do that? Like,
I know already. I know now.
that was awesome.
Let's hear it for Oz the mental.
What is Oz good at here? What is jumping out to you?
This trick doesn't require any preparation. It's completely sleight of hand, which is closer to the typical wheelhouse of what a magician is good at. And then, of course, all the psychology that comes in to doing a sleight of hand move with 6 different cameras on you and, a famous athlete that you're interacting with and holding all of that in your mind and still giving a great performance. So the move that we're seeing there, is that he gets the phone out of their hand, which he does masterfully. The excuse to, without even their sort of explicit consent, to just kind of casually take the phone out of their hand and then to start showing it to the rest of the audience. Is it scrolling? I want you all to think that it's really scrolling, so this isn't some sort of rigged setup. But right here, you can see it for what it is. Oz is he's looking at the phone screen, which allows him to read.
I mean,
it's sort of pretty undeniable, I would hope.
Unless you pause the video there, though, unless you stop it to comb through, like, where are his eyeballs pointing? What's incredible is that you don't notice it at first blush. He's really good at misdirecting your eyeballs because he is secretly looking at the phone screen.
It's phenomenal. As I say over and over again, ad nauseum in the 5-hour video, he's an incredible performer and a good magician and a good illusionist. But even if you do kind of notice that, which has happened in previous ones where someone says, hey, what are you doing? You're looking at the screen. What happens next, where he turns the phone down, that immediately to your mind says, okay, well, whatever glance he did at the screen is completely irrelevant because now the phone is pointed down towards the floor and they're scrolling up and down. But when he puts it back in their hands and says, okay, now you do it, but I want you to do it without looking, and he points the phone down towards the ground, the sleight of hand move is that he's just going to press the power button on the phone, which is going to turn the screen off, meaning now that any kind of up and down scrolling that they do is not going to change the position of those contacts so that name that he reads at the top is just going to stay there.
And look, the screen is off. You can basically, we can now glance at it like, yeah, the phone is off. The screen is dark.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, no, he got rid of it. Oh, no, we got it. Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
And then the other thing, of course, is that he is creating, as to impart this notion of a skill, he is creating what would be the mentalist's logic of how he arrived at it.
Because if the name was Michael, she would have known it was a guy. She was confused. She didn't know if it was a guy or girl. It's a name that could go either way.
Okay.
This is funny. You just gave it away. You didn't realize.
Telling the story that, of course, has nothing to do with the thing because he saw Chris Gilbert when he glanced at it, then locked it on Chris Gilbert. And now he just needs a backstory for why it is Chris Gilbert was a thing Kay Adams and Bijan Robinson had, of course, arrived at.
And that could be, once again, if I try to, parallel this to the political world or even financial world and all that stuff, like the idea of like where it's like, man, this guy's a financial genius. He just picks everything perfectly. He always gambles correctly when it comes to Wall Street and so on. But meanwhile, he could just have insider information that no one ever talks about, never gets exposed, onward and so forth, right? Where it's, once again, socially, the guy could be held up as a genius because he has, the nice cars, the nice suits, keeps making money, all the people love him. All the other rich people love him too. Meanwhile, he could just be a schemer the whole time. And there's something to that socially. If I walk up to someone on the street wearing like torn, dirty clothing, and like they might think something about my character, right? Just because, hey, man, just like, listen, if you're a bum, that means you're trash, right? You did something wrong socially, which means you did something wrong, maybe even morally in their minds, right? If I walk up in an Armani suit, coming out of a limo and shit like that, like maybe it might be viewed differently, perception-wise. And let's be real, how many people are actually thinking about it that way or considering those ideas? Or are they just doing things matter-of-factly? We need to fight that. And more matter-of-factness. Really think about it. But here we go.
Which is clever.
It's so powerful. Like, you're guaranteed to fall for it because if you're there and you think as you're scrolling on the phone, if you genuinely think that your finger is affecting that context, those lists of contexts, you are guaranteed, like, you're done at that point. And then the rest of the trick is just gift of the gab.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
How did you do that? Like,
The thing about the magicians that I've been talking about, that I've been polling, I know a couple of them here in New York City. Some of them are so protective of other magicians, right? Like, we shouldn't reveal tricks. That is, in fact, something that is so anathema to the premise of creating things that are special for an audience and magical for an audience. And the fascinating thing about O's is that I would bring him up knowing that they had this prior position and they say, that guy. There's something else going on here. And I have been spending so much time trying to understand, like, what is the argument, not only for why O's is not what he says he is, but why is it a problem? And the first trick that O's has pulled off over and over and over again is the one you referenced with Joe Rogan. But I think the version that I want to spotlight here is the trick he did in this same genre on The View.
But what if I asked you right now to think of your ATM PIN code?
Oh, no.
I love the tension in Sarah. She's like, oh,
So
we're on
nervous.
TV.
Don't say
But
it.
if I guessed it, you know what people would say? They say he must have found that out. So if I ask someone instead to make up a random PIN code, well, how can I know that? Because you didn't even know what you're going to do. So imagine you lose your bank card. You call the bank. You made up a fake ATM PIN code.
Okay,
right
make it up.
now, I couldn't have known it. Think of the first digit. You did it? Mm-hmm. Watch your mouth open. Watch. When you go like this, it sounds like a W. It's a 1, isn't it?
The first one?
The fake code, yeah, it's a 1. It starts with a 1. Anna, here's the thing. If I guess her PIN code right now, would it be amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Joy.
Don't.
Joy, look what it says on the front of my book, the last line. It says the world's greatest mentalist. I'm not gonna do something amazing. I'm gonna do the most amazing thing you've ever seen. I'm gonna set the bar at a different level. You asked me a question, what's his birthday? Are you ready? Whatever your ATM PIN code, that fake one you made up, write it down on here. Make sure no one can see it. Hold it close to your heart. Close to your heart. No, don't let them see. Don't let anyone see. Close your heart.
anyone see.
For people who are just listening, Stevie, could you describe like what mechanically was happening there?
He's talking about this idea of her giving him a random PIN code by couching it in terms of, hey, make up a random PIN code, then it's going to be something that truly originates from her mind. And so then it's a genuine test of his mentalism abilities, his ability to study nonverbal cues. And you see that he weaves in this idea of her making this O shape or worse shape with her mouth, links that to the number 1, and then says the first digit of this PIN code that she has made up. But he's referring actually to a PIN code that she's not making up in the moment. She's not generating these completely random 4 digits right there as the cameras are rolling. This is something that she has prepared beforehand, before the show. And so when O says something like, hey, remember that PIN code, the one that you made up?
Whatever your ATM PIN code, that fake one you made up, write it down on here. Make sure no one can see it. Hold it close to your heart.
If you really think about those words are clearly words that are designed to point you back to something that's happened in the past. But the human mind is so good at twisting interpretations to fit a preconceived narrative that if you look at this and you hear what he's saying, you're thinking, oh, okay, it makes total sense that she's just coming up with a random PIN code right then and there. And so your brain is not poised in a good position to understand that when he says the one you made up, you're not poised to think that he's actually pointing her mind back to something that happened before the show. And this is what mentalists and magicians will call a kind of dual reality effect, where he's using words that are going to mean one thing to her, and it's going to be interpreted completely differently by the audience who's watching the trick since the cameras have started rolling.
You're making me a little nervous.
In a good way. Hold it close to your body.
I don't want the black
You
on my...
challenged me. You said, I'm thinking of Ken, and then you asked me, what's his last name? And then you asked me, what's his birthday? Like, how could I even know that? Watch this. Tell us, what is his birthday?
December 25th.
Oh my God.
12/25.
12/25.
It's weird.
Jesus.
And are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Creepy.
Wait. Are you ready for this, Sarah?
Nope.
Sarah.
I'm done. I'm done.
To make it the most amazing, your real code, isn't it?
Again. That's 2 times now.
You can't take her everywhere.
I feel like
No
I need to
one
go to-
knows my PIN. That
Pero
is
niña,
literally
deja de decir malas
Yes,
palabras en
You
televisión.
call Bank of America.
You just said it on national television.
Why would you say it on national television? And do not announce my baby's name.
You better change
The
that.
idea that there was a backstage, the idea that there is language that does speak to the experience of the host, but not setting off the alarms of anyone who is in the audience or watching on a video. The dual reality thing, that's the thing that once you see that, suddenly things begin to click into place.
I mean, that's where the money is for Oz, is in the dual reality. He exploits the fact that human minds are interpretation machines that we naturally seek to make sense of the world. I think he plays into the fact that, generally speaking, there is a kind of unwritten rule book with magic tricks that you do the whole trick on camera. You know that you can use sleight of hand, you can use misdirection, you can use whatever you want, but it has to be all on camera.
Right.
So
Now, the statement that Steve just said right there, Steve Baskin, of, we try to make sense of the world, right? But what is the initial prior standard for how we make sense of the world in the first place? Now, if someone can get into that arena and start playing around with in that area of like, no, this is normal, and this is normal, and this is normal, and this is weird. You can't do this. That's taboo. Now, all of a sudden, maybe you have presets. Not exactly, because everyone's different. Everyone's a unique individual, right? You have everyone has different minds, essentially. But there could be, in a quasi way, some presets where people on average might think something of an event very similar to someone else because of those presets, if that makes sense. And once again, I like the idea of, I like psychology, but I think that applies really directly to politics as well, which is, playing on the psyche. And thus, I mean, is it mystery why you see things in the world the way you see them? Is that a mystery? You could people will write it off as, oh, they're just sheeple. I'm awakened. I took the red pill. But maybe you should check yourself before you wreck yourself, honestly. Because maybe those are presets too. Maybe. What's at play? Everything's for sale. Here we go.
Dual reality, or pre-show dual reality, where he's interacted with someone before the show, is really where the money is here, because it just puts people in such a weak position, because it's so natural for them to assume that the whole trick is happening right then and there on the stage when the cameras are rolling.
Right.
I think it's probably a little deeper and more complicated than even that, where Oz will, in his pre-show interactions with people, tell them that, hey, for the sake of the production value, for the sake of making sure that what happens on air goes smoothly, we're going to prepare an answer like right here, right now. We don't want to fumble around. This is show business, right? We got to make sure this is polished. And he can use that as a kind of meta deception that will lull them into a false sense of security. So it's just to do with greasing the wheels and making sure that the production runs smoothly.
And I think people probably on some level understand when they watch television, like, oh, certainly there are production meetings and all of that. But with this part is not disclosed. There is no disclaimer on any of this that says, and by the way, we happen to have a pre-show meeting in which Oz the Mentalist got to effectively have extended conversations with the people that he would be tricking seemingly for the first time out on camera on set. And the way to hide it, of course, is to seemingly acknowledge it to the person that you were dealing with backstage. So it feels like to them, you have now acknowledged it. But meanwhile, the people at home are like not at all aware. But then what's so interesting and what's remarkably quiet relative to all of the viral noise is that Sarah Haynes, who was the host of The View, who was fooled in this way in that video, went on The View's far less consumed Behind the Table podcast and proceeded to say this.
So the backstory that people don't know is we were asked to meet with him like 40 minutes prior to him being on the show.
Yes.
And by the way, in all of my years on any TV show, when a magician, an illusionist, a mentalist, whatever the people are, we've never had to pre-meet with anyone.
Well, it's usually part of their shtick. It's like, I've never met you before. We've never seen each other.
Which is good.
We've never,
he said in this meeting, kind of like, we're going to play like you came up with this. So it is funny that on the air he said, come up with a pin, and then just turned to me because I was the one that in a room he asked to do these math equations. He said, well, we're not going to use your real pin, obviously. And then he repeated that a couple of times. It's not like we're going to use your real pin. So we're coming up with like a fake pin. So he kept reassuring me that I'm trying to come up with, I think he used the word pin because it's a 4-digit number. There was a trick involved and he had to get me to a 4-digit number. So he kept saying, well, again, this isn't your real pin. We're going to get to, but I had to, he made us get our phones, all of us, everyone that came in. He said, do you have your phone? Can you go get it?
Yeah.
So we had to type things into our phone. I don't know if that's where the trick is or what, but there's a point where he says, you have a number now, like subtract your real pin. But we're getting to your fake pin. We're going to be creating this fake pin. And he kept reassuring me. And when we're on TV with these people, we have to play where they're subjects. And, it's a trust thing. When we went out and he read the numbers, it was an impressive routine that he had been working on for 40 minutes or whatever. But the part that got me was my reaction, and I shouldn't be swearing on the air, was not, oh my gosh, you're such a good mentalist or whatever. It was, you reassured me 3 or 4 times in that room, we're not going to use your real PIN number. We're coming up with an imaginary one. I have never felt so violated on air, someone meeting with you and saying over and over, like, play with me here and kind of like, I'll protect you.
So
You're not
what
going to use
what people didn't see is it was more than just the shock of it. It was deliberately countering something he had said earlier.
Yeah, and we're playing along.
And I think that part of like, oh wait, no, you had me in your sort of like tacit agreement of we're gonna make good television.
I think it gets weirder.
And then you did something that abused the trust that I gave you. And that feels like, oh, he has been tempting fate over and over again, insofar as there are people who might feel like their privacy was actually invaded, as in the case of Joe Rogan and now clearly Sarah Haynes.
Yeah, so the iPhone calculator is, I think, largely what he probably used with Sarah in this case, with this PIN code. And I would say with a fairly high degree of certainty that it is what he used with Joe Rogan as well to get the PIN code. The way that it will work is, again, before the show, there's a few different scripts that I think he can use. But let's say that, Oz has gone on Joe Rogan, he's guessed Joe Rogan's PIN code, and so that's what he's going to become the most well-known for. So that when he goes onto a podcast, he might say to people, hey, well, let's do a PIN code reveal, because that's what the people want to see. They want to see me do another PIN code reveal. But I don't want to jeopardize your situation. I don't want to expose your PIN code on air. Let's make up a fake PIN code. But hey, I'm a mentalist, and you're probably not going to be able to generate a fake PIN code as well as you think you are. You're actually going to leave some clues into what your PIN code is, even if you give me a fake number. Like that's what I did with Joe Rogan, right? He said 2020 and I was still able to figure it out. So if we just open up your calculator, you can do a series of random calculations, put in a random 4-digit number here, multiply it by 3, subtract this, a whole series of calculations, at which one point he just needs to say, okay, now subtract your real PIN code. Or add your real PIN code, or whatever it is, do some kind of calculation in the calculator that incorporates your real PIN code. There's magicians who have published books going over all of the tiny little exploits with the iPhone calculator app. All these funny little things where, hey, look, do you know that if you press like equals twice, you'll get the most recent calculation command that you've asked the calculator to do. You can do that from the answer screen, or you can press clear and it says 0 and it looks like everything's gone. But if you press this combination, it'll actually show you the last number that you entered. Or, hey, do you know that Apple has just added this feature here where you can actually go into your calculation history and see every single calculation that you've done, right?
One of my producers pointed it out to me and I felt like a idiot. I was like, wait a minute, every number I've ever entered, it's just there. It's actually logged in my app.
Yeah, exactly. Who's paying attention to something like the iPhone calculator app enough?
I know. There's a clock button now in the top left that they added that you can now look at the history. I'm like, I had no idea.
You have no idea.
There is technology that is on some level in what we just described, just built into your phone. This thing that we think we know inside and out intimately. And so, of course, we are comfortable with it, is also insidious. But then, I think there might be some people out there who are like, okay, but Stevie Baskin, this is Oz's number one antagonist. Like, of course, he's going to have all these conspiracies about how this could have happened.
Look, I think that maybe the reason the magicians that you referred to earlier say, F that guy, when they're thinking of Oz, is that he does kind of betray what maybe you might call like an honest magician. He does betray a lot of those certain principles. Even the idea that we spoke about before, this idea of not using a camera edit. to hide a move that you've done, a sleight of hand move that you've done, or using pre-show, which is, if you think about it, a pre-show, hiding things that you've done before the cameras start rolling is really just like another kind of camera edit, really. That sort of seems to magicians who cherish the art form of perception manipulation is not particularly impressive. And so in order for their art form to have a kind of respect and a sort of credibility, they don't want people who are going to come in and tarnish their art form by using cheap tricks. And I think that's what's happened with Oz. He's certainly Icarus flying too close to the sun, for sure.
To PTFO is sponsored.
Fuck your ads, Pablo.
With and lit long that's the name possible. And what, in terms of the biggest gap between what the audience is even aware is possible and what Oz might be up to quietly, it takes us back to the World of Sports podcasts. This is Bustin' with the Boys. This is Will Compton, former Nebraska NFL linebacker, and his co-host Taylor Lewan, the former Tennessee Titan. And
now, I'm telling you right now, this is fucking weird. Granted, I heard a bunch of different magicians use this thing, potentially. Maybe not everyone, but enough do, apparently. But this is still weird as fuck to me. Let's hit play. Here we go.
I believe Michigan Wolverine, and they couldn't be more excited.
Let me ask you a question. I say to you, pick any player in the NFL, 32 teams, 53 players, right? And you close your eyes. Visualize his face. Can you see this player as if he's sitting in the bus with you right now?
Yes.
Okay, open your eyes. I think that you started with the player's position. Is that how you did it?
Yes. Knowing Will is probably skin color.
I think the skin color? You laughed at that. Now you gave me a hint. That was good. I think he started with position, then you went to team, then you went to player. 32 teams. All right, I'm gonna give this a go. Think AFC, think NFC.
Okay.
Look at that.
I know, fuck.
Oh my God.
You know what? I gotta say something.
I'm just so nervous right now.
You know what? Best offense is a good defense. He went defense, right?
Yo, no, I'm trying to say just sturdy.
Do you see what's on this table? Look down. Do you see everything on this table? Look down. Cards, we got drinks, we got everything. When I say the number 4, what does that make you think of?
Do I say it out loud?
Yeah, does 4 make you think of something when I said the table? Right here, do you see it? Corner. You're thinking of a cornerback, aren't you?
Do I answer?
Yeah.
No.
It wasn't cornerback?
Corner?
Cornerback. Did this person switch teams in the last year?
I don't think so.
Okay, I gotta preface this because I think we have confusion here. Are you thinking of the same person? You've got one person throughout, or you just pick a new person?
I'm thinking of the cat. You was getting me on across over the.
I had you think it's him. He's not a cornerback.
Not a corner.
Played for the Jets last year?
Yes.
Just switched. Did you not know that? Just switched to the Buccaneers. Bryce Hall, isn't it?
That didn't happen.
Brees Hall, yeah.
Brees Hall. Is that not right?
He's on the Jets still.
He's on the Jets still?
I think he just traded in the last day of the Bucks.
Look him up.
The thing, of course, that sticks out when you watch this clip is that there is a bit of leakage from Will Compton.
This is weird.
Could you explain what is being signaled here that if you're not going through this with a magnifying glass, you might have missed?
So what's happened, to give you the full peek behind the curtain, is that he's interacted with Will before the show.
Okay, I gotta preface this because I think we have confusion here. Are you thinking of the same person? You've got one person throughout, or you just pick a new person?
I'm thinking of the cat. You was getting me on across over the.
I had you think it's him. He's not a cornerback.
Not a corner.
He's using that pre-show dual reality meta deception, and he has gotten Will to enter into a Google search the name of the player that he's thinking of. And he disguises, rather than just saying, hey, I want you to pull up Google and type something in, he gives him the excuse of, hey, can you look up a stat about this guy? I want you to maybe look up some sort of stat about him. And then he Googles that stat. He thinks he's looking up a stat, but in actuality, Oz has a few different methods that we can talk about of getting him to use a fake Google page, something that looks like Google. It will send you to a genuine Google results page, but in that process, the information that you enter is going to be sent to Oz's phone. The beautiful irony that unfolds here is that the name that Will puts into this Google search, he misspells it. Oz guesses Bryce Hall because that's the name that Will has typed into the Google search. The problem is that Will was actually thinking of Brees Hall. So exactly what happens is this. Oz loads up Will's phone, leads him to this sort of fake Google page, tells him to look up the stat. He types in Bryce Hall by mistake, autocorrect coming in for the win. It then sends him to a genuine Google results page for Bryce Hall. And he says, oh, damn, I've got to actually search Brees Hall. Backspaces his answer, puts in Brees Hall, does it again. However, the way that the app works is once you set in that first kind of search query, it breaks free, right? That's the information that is harvested. And then it just sends you to a genuine Google result. And then the beauty, of course, is that, mentalism in terms of body language analysis and nonverbal cues, that's not real at all. And so Oz, of course, then has to, he starts with the answer, as we know, and he works backwards.
Played for the...
So that's like, you send them a fake Google, which means like he's basically taking information from that other person's phone for the sake of a fucking magic trick, bro. That to me is the weirdest part of it. That's the weirdest one I've heard out of all of it. There's some other weird stuff, but that one's just extra weird. Like that's like, what did they call it? Like a phishing thing, a phishing scam or some shit like that. It's like, like where you like get like a fake, Facebook fucking thing and you sign into it, you give all your fucking information away to some random person, like identity theft motherfucker. Like that's what that reminds me of. He's doing it for a magic trick. It's just kind of weird. And obviously, like people would think of something completely different than that. The most simplest thing, like, I just basically hacked this phone essentially, right? In a way, I hacked this phone. But people would probably think when it comes to magicians or mentalists that they did something else that, man, I could never think of doing that. Like, no, he just wanted to do it. Anyone could do that shit. Now, when it comes to sleight of hand of getting it on the guy's phone without him realizing it, sure, that's somewhat of a skill there. But overall, all he's doing is using tech to get your information and then sell it back to you. Wink, wink, look at politics, just saying. All right, here we go.
He starts with the answer, as we know, and he works backwards.
Played for the Jets last year?
Yes.
Just switched. Did you not know that? Just switched to the Buccaneers.
He's starting with Bryce Hall because that's what Will typed into the fake Google search. He has no access at all to Brees Hall. Bryce Hall is actually a player, which leads now Oz into a false sense of security that when he's guiding Will through this process that he's doing something that's actually material. He's like, wait, am I on track here? Yeah, okay. Wait, is it like, what was the team, the Jets, the New York Jets? He played for the Jets. What's going on here? Oz is legitimately confused, but they're gracious to him, right? He says Bryce Hall. And they say, oh, yeah, the Brees Hall.
I mean, my mind's blown, even though were you being serious? You thought I was thinking a cornerback?
Were you thinking another cornerback?
I wasn't thinking corner. I was always thinking running back. But the fact that you landed on Brees Hall, and I mistyped and put Bryce Hall first in my search bar, and then landed on Brees Hall, and I told JP, I was like, I switched my player. I don't think he's going to get it right.
That is wild.
And they're gracious because they don't know what's happening yet. They're still like piecing together, like, wait a minute, how is this our fault? How did we fuck this up? Because clearly, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the power of the deception there is that Will is not thinking at all because he's totally bought into mentalism. So they're very gracious and they do say, oh, wow, okay, yeah, you're only a couple of letters off. Yeah, Brees Hall, that's the one that you were looking of. But then Will says it, right? He says, oh, and Bryce Hall, the fact that you even got Bryce Hall, that was the name that I misspelled into the Google search.
Yes.
And in that moment, suddenly Oz knows exactly what's happened.
And I switched. Who was before?
Don't know that one.
Who was it before?
sweating in here.
It was Christian McCaffrey.
The thing that you see when you go through the catalog as you have with like this fine-tooth comb and you go through all of the instances, especially in sports, where guys on some level are just like, they're loose, right? The hosts are loose, and there is no more comfortable host in sports media ever, I would say, in the history of the medium than Charles Barkley. And so the setup here of just like, it's March Madness. Again, it's a pregame show. It's O's the Mentalist. Ernie Johnson is swearing on his journalistic integrity.
EJ, on your journalistic integrity, you as a person, everything, have you been in possession of this the entire time? Could anybody have gotten in, out, tampered, switched on anything? Or have you had that? I hope
absolutely not, O's. Absolutely not.
1,000%.
And there's this envelope now. There's this new prop that we haven't gone over yet. This envelope. And he asks Charles Barkley to do a familiar task, which is, please pick a player.
Charles,
let me know when you're
if
ready.
I had you pick a player, okay? 64 teams started this. And I had you pick one. Right when I snapped my fingers. Now, be honest, because everyone says scripted stage. On your life, you do not know which player you're about to say at this very moment, do you?
I do not.
Okay.
You gave me two.
Hold on. Yeah, back and forth. Imagine you dribbling back.
Just Charles saying, you gave me two.
I feel bad for Oz, man. I feel bad for Oz because he had this beautiful little wordplay of, you're dribbling back and forth, back and forth. That's what he wanted to go into. You can see that that was designed to trigger in Charles' mind, oh, this is the back and forth between those two players that we have landed on before the show, that he has asked me to not choose one of these two players until we go on the show. Now, what's happening is when Charles says, you gave me two, that is not the case that he thinks that Oz knows who those two are. Okay? What it means is that they've done something before the show where Oz has made it look like he's been given a random two players. So I have a deck of cards here on my desk. So an example of what that might look like, could you say stop at a particular moment? Just any moment you want, just say stop. Okay. And so if you were to look at that card here on the bottom.
Yeah.
Do you notice anything suspicious about what I just did?
I believe that where I hit stop, that wasn't where I stopped. That was like the bottom of the deck.
That's video delay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. It was the bottom of the deck. Okay. Cool. So let's do it a little bit more fairly then. Let's instead go this way, and I want you to say stop, and I want to make sure that I stop exactly where you've said stop.
Stop.
Okay. All right. Have you got that card?
Yes.
What do you notice about that card?
It is the same card that you showed me before that was at the bottom of the deck.
The point of that is that there are ways for magicians to do things that look random, that look like they're a kind of free choice, that if you're not familiar, they're absolutely controlling what you're doing. Now, what he would have done with Charles, just to clear this.
I mean, the whole conspiracy, when it comes to politics, the conspiracy world, don't they scream about shit like that? Just saying, false flags to whatever, where it seemingly looks random and out of nowhere, but meanwhile, like even without conspiracy, you could see how one thing led to the other, which is why people who were so surprised about Trump and Iran or Obama and Libya, whatever, Syria, whatever the fuck, right? And all the events that have played out, Israel, Gaza, like, no, it didn't just happen out of nowhere. There was, to put it in their world, there was a pre-show that led to the event. In fact, I call the pre-show stuff the event itself too. But for some reason, people seemingly, that I hear people talk about this stuff, at least on the internet, they think it's like, oh, where'd this come from? It's out of nowhere, right? I'm caught off guard here. Meanwhile, it's like the thing was already there. Why, like I say, like, hey, don't take no risks here. If you see bullshit, call it out immediately as soon as you see it, because it can lead to these other, so-called major events. But all right, here we go.
For everyone at home, instead of having a deck of cards with normal playing cards written on them, he has a deck of cards with NBA players on them. And then he says, okay, Charles, what we're going to do is we're going to do a random sort of selection ahead of time. And if I was to say to you, Pablo, we're going to do this again, let's just say that if you land on the queen of clubs, that is going to be LeBron James. Okay, and so on. And so every card in the deck represents a particular player. And because I'm a mentalist, I don't want you to choose someone, because then I can look you up, I can research you, I can read your nonverbal cues, and I can figure it out. In order to make it more difficult for me, I'm going to make sure that you have a random choice. Okay, so here again, Pablo, I just want you to say stop.
Stop.
Okay, and this time I'm not going to show you the card on the bottom. I'm going to show you the card where you stopped at. Okay, so have you got that card right there? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, right. And was that the Queen of Clubs that we said represented LeBron James?
It in fact was.
All right. Okay, great. So again, a sleight of hand move utilized here. Oz just has to do something like that with Charles before the show, where he does that twice. Okay, so he does that trick twice, gives them two options, and rather than reveal it to them right then and there on the show and say, oh, was it the Queen of Clubs, or was it the Seven, or was it LeBron James, or whoever, he just gives you those two tricks that we did and says, okay, Pablo, I just want you to remember those two. And then when we go on the show, I'm actually going to get you to choose one of those two, but I don't want you to choose now. I want to be like a completely sort of free choice. And now in your mind, if you are not alert to the fact that I've just used sleight of hand on you, what's your perception? Your perception is that you've got two randomly chosen players in your mind, and that you're now carrying those onto the show, which Oz does to manipulate the viewer, because now what does this allow him to say? This allows him to drop another bomb, which is that right now, in this moment, you do not know who you are going to choose. And that is just the absolute genius way of disguising the fact. It deletes the idea of a pre-show.
Right.
It completely deletes it, because if you don't know who you're going to choose right then in that moment, well, then there's no pre-show thing. There's nothing planned. This is a genuine free choice that you're making in the moment. And so you can see the dual reality there. So he would have done two random choices with Charles that are not actually random. They're sleight of hand. So Oz knows who those two choices are, but Charles doesn't know that Oz knows who those two choices are.
And when I snap my fingers right at this moment, you pick one of those players. You go back and forth.
Wait, do I say it?
Don't say it.
Okay.
Just think it.
Okay.
Watch him. You still don't know who you're going to say, do you?
No.
Don't say. Look at me. You just decided on one just this second. Is that right?
Yes.
64 teams, 5 starters, down to this. Think of this player's jersey, his last name on the back. Look at me. Count the number of letters in his last name to yourself.
Okay.
It was quick, right?
Yeah.
I saw it. You know what? Right now. So when people in the comments say, no, wait, change your mind right now. Change your mind, other player. Change your mind right this second.
Okay.
Say it. Who did you just change to?
Richardson.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
In there, when you looked, this was sealed 2 weeks ago. There's a photo.
Yes.
Can you look inside, please? Is there a photo? Look inside before you do it. Grab. There's one photo. Take it out.
Okay.
Swear to God, you just changed your mind, right? Live TV, last one. Show it to him.
Happening.
And how could we have known on March 20th that Michigan State would still be in the game?
One of the meta deceptions then seems to be that the revelation Charles has is real to Charles, but perhaps relatively limited if he has some suspicions around, like, okay, but at the very least there was this pre-show thing. But because there's enough shock there, the audience is perceiving it as a biblical revelation. And so even there, like, the proportion of miracle is being confused. And so it is this incredible power to be like, well, look at the water being turned into wine. Everyone agrees.
There's that, but I think it's more so, in fact, because of the hyper realness of it. This guy's doing something that I don't understand, but it's not magic, like in their own minds. It's not magical powers. He's not some fucking sent by God person or whatever the fuck. He's a regular guy who's clever, but I don't know like how he's doing it. So thus he must be just like, he must be very smart, like very, 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 very smart. And that's what translates into politics, where, well, he wouldn't do that unless it made sense. Like, what was the line from Joe Rogan? He said something about the New York Times. Like, it was the New York Times. They're not going to just lie. Like not in like a deceptive or like a clever way of lying, but like straight up just lie. Just like, hey, I'm gonna make a story up. and in Rogan's mind, like, they can't do that because they're New York Times. They'll get in trouble if they just blatantly lie. They have to be clever about it. They can't just be so blatant. And that is, to me, where it's like, oh, okay, that's just a dumb way to think about things. Like, period. But, all right, here we go.
The person who was tasting it, it is in fact wine.
Part of Oz's shtick is that he will get people to count the letters in someone's name. And that's really useful because he can lean into, oh, well, I'm observing your eye saccades. I know how many letters are in that name. Like, so he'll get them to count it silently in their mind. I just want you to sit there silently and count the letters.
Look at me. Count the number of letters in his last name to yourself.
Okay.
It was quick, right?
Yeah.
And he'll say that I'm seeing how your pupils are going buh, 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 buh. And I'm so, because I'm this Jason Bourne Sherlock Holmes character, I'm able to discern how many letters are in that name because of how your pupils, how your eye saccades kind of flicked across the empty space there. Oz can now utilize something really interesting. If the two players that he has forced on Charles, let's say that one of them was Chris Paul, and then the other is
Jace Richardson from Michigan State.
If you, Pablo, right now were to choose either Chris Paul or Jace Richardson, and I say to you, all right, Pablo.
Wait, that's hilarious. You could tell this guy doesn't. He's like, yeah, basketball's kind of trash now. He knows people like Chris Paul or LeBron James. Like, everyone else is a fucking business. Who the fuck are these players? Oi! There we go.
And then the other is
Jace Richardson from Michigan State.
If you, Pablo, right now were to choose either Chris Paul or Jace Richardson, and I say to you, all right, Pablo, count how many letters are in this guy's last name and let me know when you're done. Now he can actually do something where he can say that absolutely he is relying on reading someone's body language, of analyzing how long they take to give an answer, and all the rest of it. However, right, it's just to simply discern whether it's Chris Paul or Jace Richardson. But anyone can do that. That's not impressive. That's not going to take 30 years. We all understand Richardson's going to be a little bit of it like labor.
But he's doing mentalism. But that's mentalism.
And so that is actually what he uses with Charles.
Change your mind right now. Change your mind, other player. Change your mind right this second.
Okay.
Say it. Who did you just change to?
Richardson.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
In there, when you look, this was sealed 2 weeks ago. There's a photo. Yes. Can you look inside, please? Is there a photo? Look inside before you do it. Grab it. There's one photo. Take it out. Okay. Swear to God, you just changed your mind, right? Live TV, last one.
But it's funny because Oz even needs to clarify, because Charles does count quite quickly, and he says, oh, it was short, wasn't it? It was a short name. He says yes, and because Oz knows who those two players are, he immediately knows that Charles is thinking of the wrong player. So he's got to get Charles to switch to go into Jace Richardson, which he can now justify. And he can say, you know what? Just so everyone at home thinks that this is, staged or whatever. Right now, change. Pick the other player, right? Change minds, right? Go to the other one. And leads him to Richardson so that that's going to line up with the envelope. What's really interesting about that strategy is that it allows him to then say that he is using body language, that he's using nonverbal analysis, that is part of the trick.
Which is to say that Oz knows what's in the envelope, and his thing is, I need to get Charles to say the thing that is in the envelope, and I'm going to do it by illustrating a seemingly random journey, a spontaneous journey that I'm actually, again, walking him through like it's a kid holding his parent's hand. And the thing that you just mentioned is a thing that I've heard other magicians say, which is, again, this principle of like, look, magic is all about tricking the audience, yes, but one of the sort of like unwritten rules is the audience needs to be able to see some version of the trick that the people present for the trick are also seeing.
Now, if you think about it, if you just think about the Charles Barkley trick.
Sorry, lagging a bit. Let me just reset it real fast. Here we go.
Needs to be able to see some version of the trick that the people present for the trick are also seeing.
Now, if you think about it, if you just think about the Charles Barkley trick, does some portion of the trick, in order to get to the final reveal, does it require some kind of analysis of Charles Barkley in order to get to the final reveal? Yes, it does. It's not a completely self-working trick. There's got to be some point where there's some sort of interaction with Charles that he figures out, has he chosen the player with the short name or has he chosen the player with the long name? He has to do that. That then allows him to say very honestly that, yeah, body language analysis is absolutely some of what I do. The problem with that is, like, Pablo, there's body language analysis in what you do. right? You're analyzing my body language now. We all do it. We're looking at people's facial expressions, how they react to things, what kind of mood are they in. We're all mentalists in that respect. I think that from a legal standpoint, you know, Oz sells this book, right? Read Your Mind. I'm like, where is the person with the balls to just like flat out accuse this guy of fraud? Like, if you know the law, which is that we examine what's going on from the perspective of a reasonable consumer. If Oz is selling a book that, you know, he has this little disclosure that, hey, buy my book, I'm not going to teach you how to guess people's, you know, crush or, you know, what playing card they're thinking of or any of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to teach you how to use mentalist skills in the real world. Do we not think that a reasonable person would look at this, would digest Oz and say, all right, he's this guy who can appear to be psychic, and yet his real skill is this nonverbal analysis. He can do this body language analysis kind of stuff. And he's now going to sell a book where rather than telling me how to use body language analysis and nonverbal cues in order to guess random pieces of information about people, he's going to teach me how to use those skills to interact with people sort of in my everyday life. But I'm going to get some sort of peek behind the curtain as to what's actually going on in this Jason Bourne, Sherlock Holmes kind of a, you know, 30 years reverse engineering the human mind. Like, it's so obvious to me that he wants people to have that interpretation of what he's doing, that is his goal. He wants you to believe that is what he is doing so that you will then go and buy his book. And like, to me, all the steps for fraud are there.
But I think for me as like a journalist, the realm I see it through is less the law at this point and it's more finance. Because what is the sort of unifying theory of a guy who has carried himself through this series of unwritten rules and violated them to the amusement of America, but to the dismay of the people who had helped construct and protect the delicacy of these codes? He was a guy who worked at Merrill Lynch. And if Oz the mentalist is like, hey, I see what works. I see what makes the number go up. I see what makes the green arrow point up and to the right. And all these other people are inefficient and or too afraid to press the button over and over again. Well, guess what I'm going to do? And that's the story of finance as much as it is legal strategy.
Yeah, that's a really acute observation, Pablo. Kudos to you, man. Yeah.
Sociology, politics. Don't worry, don't say something a little bit more interesting towards
This is where I should say that we did reach out for comment from Oz Pearlman directly and through his representatives, disclosing that we had Stevie Baskin as our guest on this episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out, and they did not respond. But there is one more clip from the Joe Rogan Experience that I do think is worth playing towards the end here, in lieu, perhaps, of any such comment. Because at this point in their conversation, Joe and Oz have been talking about religious cult leaders. And Oz says,
there's a fine line between, if you looked at a path of my life, again, I don't see myself cult leader, but a con man is very similar in many regards to what I do, because that's using these skills in what I would describe as like an unethical way, right?
But don't you think they're the same thing? A cult leader's a type of con man.
Oh, I was saying what I do is like a con man.
Yeah, but you are a con man for entertainment purposes.
Right, exactly.
It's different. Like,
right.
And maybe that is the best defense that Oz has for all of this. Just in a nutshell, that there are no rules if the goal is entertainment, and that the audience actually wants to be conned in order to be entertained. But the question Stevie Baskin and I are raising about the logic here of Oz's brand of mentalism is this. If you explicitly say that there are no secret superpowers and that you're just noticing things about how a person acts, wouldn't the audience find all of this con artistry a lot less impressive and a lot less entertaining if they knew you were breaking your only rule and being dishonest about what the con even is?
well, I think people, when they think like, oh, with what you're doing, like, hey, I'm actually sending you a fake Google link to get you to punch in your information or make you do little things on a calculator where I use the memory that's on your calculator to read your PIN code number. Yeah, once the con is up, I assume it becomes less impressive. Where it's like, man, you're not some genius. You just used the fucking app or whatever, right? Like, that's not that brilliant. it's more of the marketing of what you're doing to make it seem like you're doing something special compared to regular people or whatever. But that's a play. There we go. And I absolutely agree with that. You can tailor that towards politics and the idea of like people watching things just to get by on the day, right? As Ed would say, actually, entertainment, right? I'm just watching for entertainment, and I'm okay with being conned for the sake of the entertainment. But once you see how the fucking hot dogs are made, I think that entertainment like goes away because like oh, this is like weird, and I'm falling for this. Fuck. Now, typically, they might run to someone else to go be conned over there with someone different, but once that bubble bursts, I think it really is like something a little icky happens for people. They're like, ooh, this guy sucks, or this guy's dishonest, or this guy's an asshole, or this guy's a full of shit artist. So breaking the illusion is very much important, but here we go.
I was thinking about the principle that Penn and Teller, fantastic magicians, by the way, who would describe themselves as honest magicians, who have a show Fool Us. Actually, where funnily enough, on the show, one of the rules that they have for the show is that people can't use pre-show work. People can't use camera edits. Everything needs to be happening on stage. It needs to be a fair fight.
Which brings us, finally, to another more self-interested reason why still other magicians and mentalists consider O's such a problem for their industry. Because O's did not pioneer or invent the secret superpowers of backstage devices and pre-show deception, but nobody uses them more visibly at this point, or with a larger platform. And so the concern among some of O's competitors is that the sheer frequency with which he calls these plays, spamming viral clips of them all across the internet, could damage the market for mentalism in general, turning the whole practice into a form of bad plastic surgery. In part because there are some audience members who may or may not have YouTube channels who love noticing things too. Insofar as we are people who are now invested at the extreme end of the spectrum of investment in whether people know the truth about this. I suppose the only check on such a business is whether people hear what we're saying and whether they can actually get to know and find out, oh, wait a minute, this explains the thing that I thought was truly mystical in its inexplicability.
In many ways, it feels like you have to acknowledge that like a really great con artist has a skill set. Absolutely they do. And there is this kind of lens that you can sit in and you can maybe watch how a con artist weaves these webs of deception around people, and it's masterful to watch. But it doesn't change the fact that there's still an ethical question that needs to be asked here.
Well, I think if nothing else, like I think of the truth fundamentally as something that also exists in a bit of an ecosystem. And if you're going to sort of weave together all the concepts here around harm, around supply and demand, around how is this guy getting away with this and what can be done about it, I do think that someone who decides to exploit these strategies so often that it's made him the most popular and seemingly well compensated and most platformed mentalist that there's ever been online, the very success of that demands a market response. It is daring someone to come along and say, wait a minute, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be everywhere and yet undiscussed and unexamined. And that's the thing of like where I've always thought of like journalism and the law as like sort of kindred spirits in that regard. It's like, hold on. You can get all the money, but it doesn't mean you can't be talked about. You can't be studied and investigated. That's also part of the game.
I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. I would expand on that and say that this whole thing can be flipped into something positive. I think there is real utility in kind of having your heart broken. There is a kind of emotional utility in believing in Santa Claus and then discovering, oh, damn, I was wrong. Well, at least there's an opportunity there. And the opportunity is to
let's be honest. Most motherfuckers don't, quote unquote, wake up without their fucking hearts broken first. And, right, which requires like a breakdown of the world as you understood it. Right? And usually that comes in the form of heartbreak, unfortunately, but seems to be the case. Now, what typically happens is that they just double back into something different. That's probably the same level of conditional pathology in a way, right? You're locked back into conditioning, and it just a different form, a different aesthetic to it. But there are a few that say, I'd never want that happening ever again. Like the idea of like being so disillusioned with their just falling for all the illusions in the world and all that shit. We're like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking, bury my feet here and dig into this thing. Who am I? What am I doing here? What was I thinking? What am I thinking now? Where could my mind go? Once again, few and far between, in my opinion. But initially, that initial shock, that split of the ego, of the psyche, when tragedy strikes, and it's like, damn, the world isn't what I thought it was. Yes, scary, but you should give it a real examination. Like, look into it. It's gonna hurt. Got the metric. All right, here we go.
Oh, damn, I was wrong. Well, at least there's an opportunity there. And the opportunity is to recognize the vulnerabilities in your own perception, in your own vulnerabilities in interpreting the world. And that to me is the pinnacle value of what magicians bring society. Is that magicians are capable of showing you, hey, how you perceive the world at first glance, at first blush, is not necessarily the most reliable perception and interpretation that you are capable of garnering from the evidence around you. There is such a thing as taking a second glance. There is such a thing as introspecting and thinking about things and wanting things, finding the isolated variables. There is a tremendous value in recognizing the weaknesses in our own psychology. And Oz has undoubtedly done that. This is something that isn't isolated to magicians and mentalists. This is something that is being deployed by people all around you all the time, right? It's a dog-eat-dog world out there in a certain lens of interpretation where people are more than happy to have you believe things that are completely untrue if it benefits them personally. So recognize those vulnerabilities. And that's where I think the Oz Pearlman story, that's maybe the saving grace. That's where this can become something really beautiful rather than something super pernicious.
I'm gonna end it there. I mean, that's beautifully said. Although, once again, I have to do some interpretation of what he exactly means by that. But still, in words, I'm like, I like the way that sounds. Yeah, it's like much work is required, and I'd say yes at first. Recognize your vulnerabilities, right? But I think at some point, you do the work. You could be Batman if you wanted to. Be that savage of integrity and structure and order and negotiation with chaos and all that stuff, all those psychological phenomena that a lot of people that it's real, a lot of us take it for granted. But you can become ridiculously strong in those areas just by sticking with capital T truth. That's all you got to do. Capital T truth. And guess what? Typically, people think of truth. They're like, oh, you know a fact about something. You know the details of an event over there or something like that. But I mean, like, no, you can know you don't know something. That could be a truth. As in, the thing I'm thinking with right now doesn't know what happened in that car crash over there. I don't know what happened. I have some beliefs, another truth. I'm guessing this, another truth. But ultimately, I don't exactly know what happened, another truth. Like, just compilation of truth stacking on top of each other. Where one day you might find an actual, like, information truth thing. It'd probably start with yourself first, but who knows where we could go. Maybe one day we could actually see something truly objectively in the outside world, for all we know, right? Actually, I think probably what would that start with? Maybe love, right? I don't know that person, but I fucking love them, right? Who knows? But yeah, it's like it really is keep it simple, stupid, and in that sense, in my opinion, at least, in my belief of the world, you'll get to see the wonders of wonders. You keep your internal teammates with you. But we'll leave it there. Once again, beautiful ending statement by Steve Baskin. An interesting video in general about, once again, I'm trying to parlay it into like, or parallel it with the world of politics, which involves a lot of psychology and marketing and advertisement and the way they talk to you and world events, and it gets people to think that maybe not get them to think a certain way, but makes it more conducive for them to think a certain way. Maybe that's the right word. And that can play out in the sense of any genre you want to pick. And this O's Pearlman guy, and the way he does mentalist tricks or magic tricks and perception tricks on people. Just because he's just put in that genre of that does not mean it stops there. As Steve was saying, look outside, look all over the fucking place. Could you be being tricked anywhere else? Where someone's like purposely trying to fuck with your mind to get you to think something. It's worthy of thought to me, but yeah, I'll leave it there. There's your video. Please subscribe if you feel like. Comment, agree or disagree. Let it be known. Yeah, let it be known. Don't forget to share, support. Hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We're in that Discord right now. My computer hasn't crashed yet. Don't crash. But please join the Discord if you feel like. And everything I showed you, which is just 2 pieces of content, will be linked for you to look at on your own and rabbit hole through. And this Steve guy did a 5-hour video, which is linked in Pablo's video. Someone who actually fucking links to shit they're watching. Oh my god. Or the subject they're talking about, to actually link information about it. Holy shit, Pablo Torre, you're like a journalist or something. That's crazy. But yes, please check all that out. I actually do recommend the 5-hour video. I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen some portions of it. And yes, kind of long-winded, but for me personally, my personality, I like shit like that. I like hearing as much words, descriptors, adjectives, whatever the fuck you like. Throw it all out there, man. I want to hear all of it. And it's understandable. It's not, gobbledygook. So please, rabbit hole if you want to. Most importantly, with all that said, give this video a thumbs down.